Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Shirley, Emerald Ambassador with Plexus, and we are here with the Freedom Team and some others who have graciously joined us, who are amazing. We're so glad that they've joined us with our book study. We're doing John Maxwell's 25 Ways to Win with People. Now, I realized last week that I did not do chapter 16 in the recorded session. So what I did is I went ahead and did it not live. I did it after the recording was shut off, but it was find keys to people's hearts. Find the things that matter the most to people. Listen. You have to listen actively. It's like conducting an orchestra. There are many different players and instruments that the conductor must know thoroughly. And we really need to know our players on the team. So I'm very quickly going through it. Knowing the people on your team, knowing what makes them tick, knowing what really matters to each one of them. You can't win with people unless if you secretly harbor the belief that everybody ought to be more like you. You have to understand that people are different, recognize that they're different, and celebrate the differences that God made. Some of the questions that you can ask people to really find out what the keys to their heart are, and you don't do them in a row. You have to do them in context, and you have to think about it and be prepared and just kind of go with the spur of the moment. And you might ask one of those questions just to start up a conversation. But you're not going to just sit there and ask these questions one right after the other, because they're going to sound strange. What do you dream about? You can look into learn about their minds and what they've already achieved. But to understand their hearts, you have to look at what they want to become, right? Okay, another question, what do you cry about? I mean, what is their pain? What really makes them pained? Understanding their heart. Understanding their pain is to understand their heart. What do you sing about? In other words, what do they celebrate? What is their source of strength? Okay, here's another question. What are your values? And then when people share, literally they say, here are my core values. You're going to really know the person, because those values are the central core of what they operate around. What are your strengths? Okay. What is your temperament? You're going to discover the way to their hearts if you learn their temperament. Understand that you need to establish some common ground. There's always things that we all have in common. So to see another person's point of view is to understand the key to their heart and really establish that you have common ground. Know that people change. Understand that people change over time. When they experience a tragedy, when they've gone through something, when they failed at something, when they have a success at something, they're going to change. They're going to grow. Understand that is going to happen to people, and also keep connecting with people. Stay in continual conversation with people. Keep connecting on that heart level. Look for the change indicators of a person's life. When they hurt enough that they have to change, when they learn enough that they want to change, and when they receive enough that they're able to change, you need to notice those things that are going on in those people's lives. Okay. Now, these are the people that you really want to build relationships with and grow with so that you can make a true impact. Once you've found the key to a person's heart, you must act with integrity because you've been entrusted with something of great value, and never use that information to manipulate that person. So that information is very sacred. All right. Now that was chapter 16 because I did not do it in the recording. So we're going to start with chapter 17 now, and we're going to go all the way up to 20. Chapter 17, be the first to help someone. Oh my gosh. When I saw that, I was like, bam, I do that. I do that readily. I love to, it's like a drug to me in a way. When I see that somebody needs help, I just automatically offer to help. I'm not worried about what they're going to think about me or if they're going to reject me. I just really want to help people. If I see an elderly person struggling, if I see somebody, I mean, I always open doors. I'm not in a rush. Now, in traffic, sometimes I'm the worst. I have to watch that. Traffic can make all of us crazy people. But I love helping people in airports. I like helping children. I love, like at the gym. Here's what I do at the gym. I'm in spin class, and the instructor drops their water bottle on the floor. I don't want them to have to get off of their bike. So I just run down and grab it and give it to them. Also, the instructor at the spin class at some point has to get off their bike and go turn on the fans because, yes, Valerie, because it's getting hot in there. So we want the fans circulating. Well, I don't want them to have to get off of their bike. And just the other day, the instructor, I went to a new class where she was not used to me getting up off of my bike, going and turn on the fan. So she was new. I was new to that class because I was going to a different class. And she started to get up off her bike. I said, you stay there, I'll go do it. And she's like, oh my gosh, you see people just love it. It's an automatic thing that endears you to people. Now, am I doing it for the sole reason to make that person love me? No, it's something I love to do. I love to make people happy. Now, am I a natural helper? No. My number one motivation in life is not to help people. All right. My motivation, I'm a red. So I'm not, if you look at the 4-color personality thing, I'm not Miss Helper, sacrifice myself and help everybody at the, that's not me. But I love to just see people's needs and meet their need. If it's something I can do, I love to just do it because it makes them happy. And I love to see people happy. And I like to see people happy with me. I would help my students. Here's another thing I do regularly. Somebody reaches out to me who's not even on my team. And they tell me that they're doing this, this, and this, and they're working this, this, and this, and they have questions, or they've watched a video of mine somewhere on a YouTube channel and they have a question. Can I give them some advice? As long as I know that person is working, I actively help them. I actively pour into that person. And that's when I can get nothing back. Nothing. I know that person is not on my team. I know they're not earning me a paycheck. So why do I do it? Because I love the feeling I get when I help someone. Quite frankly, it's a little bit selfish because I love to feel good about doing something for someone else. It feels good. If you've ever done it, you can get addicted to it. It starts to be like a really fun thing to do. So my thing is to think about, like, who are some people that can do nothing for you? And if they ever need something, or they ever could use something, or very quickly you could find a way to meet a need of theirs, do it. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I don't think it says this specifically in this chapter, but it is a biblical principle. Okay? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that is the golden rule. It's literally, Jesus says that. Love others as much as you love yourself, right? What's another thing that I could tell you? It is also a biblical principle that what you sow, you reap, okay? It is an active principle that is working in the world we live in, or some people call it the universe, whatever. I call it the world. I don't live in the universe. I live in the world. The universe sounds esoteric to me. So I live in this world, on this planet. And it is a biblical principle. When you give, you will receive. And many times it's 10 times fold. Okay, that's a scripture. It's the truth. And if you sow negative things and bad things, and you say negative things, and you do negative things, you do bad things, it's going to come back to you. It's going to bite you in the rear end. Some people call it karma. I don't call it karma because I don't believe in that. But I'm telling you, it's the greatest thing when you can go and help somebody, because you will win when you help people. I just had to say that. You don't have to be a professional shepherd to actually identify the needs of people and be the first person to help them. It's the kind of thing that anybody can do regardless of age, talent, or socioeconomic status. You don't have to be a rich person to help somebody. And I feel a little weird saying this because I don't want to like pat myself on the back. I don't want to be one of those people. But I'll just go ahead and say this, all right? There's a specific individual on my team that I love so much. And I know this person struggles. And I know that they do a lot for other people. And I know that they work really hard. And I know that I don't want to say too much because it'll give it away. I know that this person struggles financially and it does so many righteous deeds for other people that when sometimes I will text this person and I will say, hey, such and such, tell me what's going on in your life. And that person will text me back and they'll tell me. And it's not something they post on Facebook, but if they're having a financial issue, if they're having like home repairs, if they're having car troubles or whatever, I just go to my PayPal and I send them some money. And I just go back to that text thing and I say, hey, check your email. Because, you know, it's a great feeling when you can give and you don't have to look at your checkbook to do it. It feels so good. I love giving to my students who are on mission fields. They're going in the mission field, they're going on the trip. This has nothing to do about like helping somebody with their immediate needs, but in a way it is. You know, I used to not be like that, guys. I'm serious. I'm not this great person. And there's a million times where I could have given to somebody where I didn't, and I was stingy. Lots and lots of times. So I ask God to make me a new creature every single day, to soften my heart, to show me the needs of others. And if I can be a light in someone's life, or if I can lift them up, that's what I want to do. I'm not perfect. I suck at so much of this. But I'm telling you, if you can think about something simple that you can help somebody with, it is the quickest way to make them feel like $1 million, and they will love you. Okay? They will listen to you. You have automatic influence with that person. Automatic. It makes a statement when you're really quick to do it. When you're really quick to do it. When you don't think about it, you just go and do it. You don't let somebody else beat you to the punch. You do it first. Make it a priority to help somebody. Make it a priority. Make yourself aware of people's needs. Just like always be aware, looking around, keeping things in mind. You might find out that they have a need that you didn't even know existed. Listen with your heart. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Mentally put yourself in that other person's shoes, and that will help you to realize what their need is. If you can take yourself and put yourself into their shoes, then you will have compassion for that person. You will all of a sudden have some empathy for them. Be willing to take a risk. Be willing to take a risk. And there's stories all throughout here, but the one that I really love is, if you've ever watched the movie or read the book by a guy named Spielman. He's a Polish pianist, and the book is called The Pianist, and there was a movie called The Pianist, and it won Best Picture at the Academy Awards like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Adrian Brody played the pianist, and when he was in World War II and his whole family was stolen away by the Nazis to concentration camps, and he barely escaped with his life, and he went and hid out in the ghettos that were being bombed and destroyed, and he hung out in these little like holes in the ground in these little places, and there's these little cupboards, and he was hungry and he had nothing, and he almost died many times from heartache and from physical needs. And this German officer found him in a house, and that was going to be destroyed and bombed. And this German officer, who could have shot and killed him on a moment's notice, started asking him questions and asked him to play. It was the most beautiful concerto ever, but he played this beautiful piece, part of this concerto. There was no orchestra, obviously, but he played that part. And he sat down at the piano and couldn't even feel his hands. In the book, I know because I've read the book, but he couldn't feel his fingers, and he still played, because even though he had not played like in 2 years, he sat there and just, it was beautiful. And this German officer said, I'm going to, basically, here's some food, here's this, go up in this room and hide out, and don't ever, don't come out until I come and tell you. And so he did. And that German officer took care of him for the next month or so, until completely Poland was raided and obliterated. And that German officer, when the liberation happened and the Russians finally came in and liberated Poland, this German officer was taken to a camp where he died. So this German officer risked everything for a Polish man who was a Jew and who was looked down upon by the Nazis. And he took a great risk to help Spielmann. And it's an amazing story. But I think that knowing the life of that man, because the pianist went and did some research to figure out who he was, and he found out that he was a kind of person that hated Nazism, and he hated the philosophy of Hitler and the Third Reich. And he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was ashamed that he had to participate. And so he didn't mind giving his life at the very end for someone else. And that doesn't mean that you're going to go and help somebody and give your life for them. It may at some point mean that, I don't know, but it feels incredible to take a risk and to help somebody, and to know that you were pivotal in the way that they could survive. Like, you were pivotal in their survival. You were pivotal in their flourishing and their thriving. When you say you're going to help somebody, you better follow through. Don't say you're going to do it and then don't do it. And be the first one. Don't let somebody do it first and then you kind of come in kind of secondary going, okay, I'm just going to, finish that up. Be the first one to go ahead and offer. Being helpful is the shortest distance between two people, especially when you're the first one to help. So forget thinking about what's in it for you, and think about how you can offer a hand. Forget thinking about what's in it for you. Think about how you can offer a hand. Ask, how can I help you? Be the first person to volunteer, offer assistance, or lend a hand. And remember this, if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to end up getting what you want, period. That is the core principle. People, the word people, winning with people, they are the most important commodity and asset and valuable thing on the planet. The person who learns how to cultivate relationships and love others is going to be a very wealthy man. And I'm not talking about like money. That could happen. But what I'm saying is you will be an ultimate massive success if you can learn how to love others and cultivate relationships. When your head is down and you only deal with the people that are already in your life, and you don't expand yourself, and you don't try to meet new people, and you don't try to help others, and you're not looking at other people and you're only looking at yourself, you're never going to go anywhere in life. You're going to stay right there. So as soon as you start to look at other people, to learn how to help others, to learn how to be others focused, to learn to help people get their needs met, take your eyes off yourself. I'm telling you something, you're going to start going somewhere. And when you make it like one of your life's missions, like that's the thing you operate from, that's your core, that's your center, that's going to be so easy to do. All right, chapter 18, add value to people. Now I said to myself in this chapter, this is a big chapter. add value to people. You know, when you go through the John Maxwell training course, learning how to be a John Maxwell trainer or a John Maxwell coach, I have heard this from my friends who are in Plexus who have gone through that training, and it's very intense. It's a bit expensive, but it changes your life. And one of the things that I hear from them the most is that when they finish that training, they truly understand, because they've heard it from the lips of John and his team. They truly understand in every way, in every circumstance, how to add value to other people. They completely get it, like all the aspects of how they can add value to others. It's a big deal learning how to add value to people. So pouring into others, is that something you do, or do you just pour into the people that are just right around you? Do you seek to give away yourself to other people that are not in your immediate circumstances? But definitely start there, but then seek to give away yourself to other people and help other people that are outside of your immediate sphere. Talks about the different things that John does to add value to people. At his conferences, he takes his members of his staff to conference trainings, and takes them to events just to make them better. He sets aside time for each individual to personally mentor and coach them. That's a big deal. Giving your time is huge. He gives the people that he leads freedom to risk and succeed, and a safe place to fail and learn. He even adds value by paying his people well. So he pays them very well. One guy said, what does John do? What does he do? Well, one person says he believes in me. Speaking the truth in love to me. Stretching me way beyond my comfort zone, but not outside of my gift zone. It's so important. That's why I'm reading this, okay? I'm not going to gloss over it. Opening the world to me through foreign travel. Wow. Modeling leadership in both the tough times and the fun times. Meaning doing the right thing when it's not popular to do the right thing. There's a lot of that going around. Speaking to others more highly of me than I deserve. Speaking to others more highly of me than I deserve. That one's huge. Opening doors in life that I could never have opened myself. Consistently having my best interest at heart. Allowing me into his inner circle. And treating me like a younger brother. Those are huge things that you could do, that he does for other people. And this one guy says, if I had never met John, my whole entire life would be different. My career, my skills, my relationships. He has added value to me in every step of the way for 2 entire decades. How do you measure that? You can't put a price tag on it. There's 3 ways that you can add value to people. 3 things, okay? Again, I'm going to say this one thing before I start saying those things. You have to embrace the core belief that people are the most important thing on this planet. You have to get that. And when you get that, you'll do nothing but want to help others. And you'll operate from that core belief, and you will be attractive, you will have influence, and people will want to listen to you. I can't tell you how many times, it doesn't happen all the time, but I get private messages. Keep saying what you're saying on the internet. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't tell you how great it feels to know that I'm going to get to read something positive from you every day. You know, I had a girl tell me today, just because I spent an hour voice texting her a couple of months ago, asking her what was going on in her life. I hadn't heard from her in a long time. And I just sat there. I said, let me go get a cup of coffee because I know you're busy or whatever. And I'm going to sit here and let's just go back and forth. I know it's hard for you to get on the phone because you're busy. And I spent a whole hour just going back and forth with her and talking to her about different things, asking her questions. And she said that changed her whole life. Literally today, she told me that. And then she's like, you're the reason I sponsored 5 ambassadors last month. And I'm like, no, I'm not the reason. She's like, you have no idea how you made me believe in myself. And I'm like, I love people. That was not my intention. I just love people, and I wanted to be there for her. And I don't have a job. And my job is to love the people on this team. And my job is to pour my life into them. God gave me this talent, so I'm going to use it. It didn't come from myself. So what I'm telling you is, if you can put people first. Put people first. I keep saying that in 20 different ways. So the first thing you can do is value people. You make other people feel important in the presence of, in your presence. If you make them feel important, you secretly feel, it's like they secretly feel that, I can't, forget it. Let me just reread that. You can't make the other fellow feel important if you're in your presence, if you secretly feel that he's a nobody. That's a quote by this guy named Les Giblin. He's a relations expert. You can't make somebody feel important in your presence if you feel like he's a nobody. Okay? I'm going to say something really vulnerable here. Oh my, it's hard to do it. There have been some times with my students, and probably on this team, I know for sure on this team, where I've looked at some folk and I've not seen the best in them, and I've doubted whether they could accomplish much because of a lot of their setbacks. And I don't probably speak to them in the highest, like, believing that they're a diamond. I don't talk to them that way because I'm looking at their limitations and wondering if they'll ever accomplish anything. I hope that none of you I've ever talked to that way or made feel like that, because it's not what I ever wanted to do. But what I'm saying is I'm a screwed up person in some ways, as well as I've accomplished a lot. I know I've talked to a few students that I never thought they'd amount to anything. I mean, and I didn't necessarily say anything mean to them or hurtful, but that maybe the tone or the way or the register that I came across was doubtful, or not the words that I said, but you could just detect it. Does that make sense? And so that I'm not proud of, because we have to believe in people. We cannot sit around thinking that somebody's a nobody and that they don't have potential. Every single human being has potential on this planet. They can change, okay? The way we see people is often the difference between manipulating and motivating them. If we don't want, did you hear that? Manipulating or motivating? Which one are we doing? If we don't want to help people, yet we want to help us, we want them to help us, so our whole motivation is for them to do something for us, that's manipulation, okay? Then we get into big trouble doing that. Thank you, Roxy. Are you giving me some grace? Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. We manipulate people when we move them for our personal advantage. However, we motivate people when we move them for our mutual advantage. I love that mutual thing, because especially in network marketing, everything we do for anybody is a win-win. Like, they win and we win. Seriously, that's the truth. So adding value to others is often a win-win proposition. How do you see people? I'm reading all this because it's so important. And if I didn't think it was important, I wouldn't read it. So please bear with me, okay? How do you see people? Are they potential recipients of value that you can give, or do they tend to be nuisances along your path to success? Ouch. Author Sidney J. Harris said, quote, "People want to be appreciated, not impressed." They want to be regarded as human beings, not as sounding boards for other people's egos. They want to be treated as an end in themselves, not as a means towards the gratification of another person's vanity. Whoa. If you want to add value to people, you have to add value to them first. You first of all have to value. That's what I said it wrong. If you want to add value to people, you have to value them. You have to look at them as valuable first. That's what I meant to say. Okay, now, another thing you've got to do is make yourself more valuable. Okay, so how can you add value to other people if you're not adding value to yourself? I mean, the idea of a cup that is empty, how in the world can you pour anything out of it? Okay, so an empty cup cannot give anything to anyone. But if you fill your cup, okay, you just keep filling it, and now it's overflowing with all of this greatness. That's the stuff that everybody out there gets. When you fill your cup, you're constantly reading 10 pages a day. You're reading your Bible. You're doing your devotional. You're listening to a sermon. That's what I do. I read a devotional. I listen to a sermon. I read scripture. I do whatever I have to do to make my mind get it back into a positive mode so I can give to other people. And then the excess, the overflow is what other people get. But if I'm giving of a cup that is never getting filled, then eventually that cup is going to be empty. And I have nothing to give. Truly. So make yourself more valuable. Making yourself more valuable is not an entirely selfish act. You have to add value to yourself. You have to do it. But when you do that, you also increase your ability to help others. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Valerie. That is a good visual. I didn't get it from myself. I saw it somewhere else and I just like reproduced it. Okay. The next thing you can do to add value to people is know what they value. Thank you. Thank you. Know what people value. John says, I make it a standard practice to note what people in my life value from me, and you should do that too. Okay, so here's a few examples. Margaret, my wife, values my time with her and my attention. My children, Elizabeth and Joel Porter, value the legacy Margaret and I are leaving for them. Larry, my brother, values my prayers and our time together. On and on and on. What is that person? What are the people in your immediate family, in your relationships, the people you're trying to influence the most? What do they value? Give it to them. Don't give in scarcity. Give it in abundance. Okay? We must take the time to know what our most valuable people value. What is it that our most valuable people value? Adding value to others is not only a gift to them, but it's a gift to you. I told I'm getting ready to go out of town to a team in the Pacific Northwest pretty soon, at the end of the month. And I told them, because I have not spent time with them in 3 years. I've not gone, I see them at convention, I hug them, we take photos and we pass each other and, send a message here and there, but it's not time. And I love the time. That's what that is valuable to me. That's what fills my cup up, is getting to have those deep relationships with people and spend quality time. Stacy's on the call tonight. She knows, I don't know if you know this, Stacy, but you sent me through the stratosphere, taking an entire weekend going with me to Dallas. Spending time away from your family, going with me and hanging out with me, that meant everything to me. You have no idea what you did for me. You might think I did something for you, but you really filled my cup up big time. That's why I'm going to try to figure out a way to hopefully get places around the country. Oh, thank you. And see my team. So, okay, back to my story. So I'm getting ready to go out to the Pacific Northwest to visit a team because, well, quite frankly, some big things are happening on that team out there. And I had talked to my husband, Tom, and I said to him, do you want to go out there and I'll just hang with them for a couple of days and do a meeting or whatever. And we can hang out with them. Like literally we can spend time with them. And then after that, we can go on like a 5 or 6 day vacation. And he's like, I just can't get away from work right now. And so the people that I was talking to that I'm getting ready to do this for, I told this gal and I said, I just want to be with you and your husband and your kids. Is that okay? Like if I can just hang out with you and your husband and your kids for a couple of days, I don't need to stay in your house. I'll stay in a hotel or whatever, but I just like want to see you guys. I've not been able to hang out with you. I've not been able to spend time with you. And it's been years and I feel like we're due for that. And then we can go wherever you want to do and do a meeting. And they're like, we're just so grateful that you're doing a meeting and that you're coming and da, da, da. I'm like, you have no idea, but I'm the one that's winning. Not you. I might be doing a meeting for you, and you might think that's great, but I'm the one coming out on top because I actually get to spend time with you. And that's the thing that means the most to me. It means more to me than, like, I will lay down money to go and do that because I don't care about the fact that it will help somebody. I mean, I do. I want to help their team, but to me, it's more valuable to spend time with people and have amazing friends for life. That's all that matters to me. And that's one of the greatest things that this business gives me. Truly incredible. I mean, I just cannot imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have a Karen Ritter or a Susie McCrae or a Stacy Upton or a Kelly Wedge or a Jean Mara or a Heather Lipscomb who's not even on this team, or a Carol Piatenko who loves Michigan. You know, Valerie, I'm so glad you're here tonight. Or Karen Wheeler, what a blessing you are. I mean, all of you guys, huge blessing, massive blessing to my life. You have no idea. I wish we lived on the same street because I would love to get off of a video and be able to like hang out with you. Remember somebody's story, chapter 19. So important. I'm telling you, when I'm messaging somebody and I ask them, oh, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you. When I message somebody and I've made a note that their dad was in the hospital or that somebody had surgery or they were sick, I say, hey, how are you feeling? Just checking in on you. Is there anything I can pray for? I remember you told me you were dealing with some health issues or that your dad was in the hospital. How's your dad doing? How's your mom doing? You know, you just have to care for people and know what story is going on. Listen to their story. Check in. Here's another thing that I do to really highlight somebody's story is ambassador spotlight. You know, I've learned how to do that. I've learned to make people feel like they've got the stage and let them know that they're important and their story is so important, that their struggle is important, their journey is important, their gifts and talents, their weaknesses are so important and so powerful. When they share their weaknesses with everybody, everybody relates to them because they all have weaknesses. So that's what I do with the Ambassador Spotlight. Let them tell their story. People want to tell their story. Susie says that to me all the time. People just want to tell their story. Let them talk. Let them talk. Ask, you know, if John Maxwell says, just ask him, hey, what's your story? And then listen. And if you feel a little bit intimidated to do that, like that sounds a little weird, then just ask them some questions like, well, tell me about yourself. And so how did this come to be? Or how did you come to get, you know, what are some of the greatest lessons you've learned in your life? That's a huge question to ask people. I mean, that's going to get them talking for about an hour. If they're a talker person. People love it when you remember their story. When you reconnect and you remembered what they had told you before, you can make an instant connection, like instant, okay? Like boom, instant connection. When you ask somebody to tell you about themselves and you sit there and listen and you ask a question maybe, and you never think about a time where you could say, well, that reminds me of what I did. No one cares. They don't want to hear what you did. Let them ask you about you. That's your cue to maybe say a little something about yourself. And I have had to learn that when I sit down to breakfast or I sit down to have a conversation. People don't want to just hear all about me and my story. I have to remind myself it's about them. And if they ask me what my thing is, I remember I say it to myself, make it short, make it short, make it short, make it short, because I don't want to spend the whole time talking about myself. When you request a person's story, you're saying to them you're special. When you remember a person's story, all right, I said it wrong. When you request that a person tell their story, it says you could be special to me. When you remember a person's story, it says you are special to me. When you remind a person of his or her story, it says you are special to me. And when you repeat that person's story, especially in front of others, you could be special to them. People are endeared to others who know other people's story, and they talk positively about others. So don't hesitate. Dive right in and ask them to share their story. Listen. Look them in the eye. Be attentive. Don't interrupt them. And tell the speaker what you think you heard. Begin by maybe saying, let me see if I understand this. And repeat what they said, maybe. The main idea is to really focus on that other person. The problem that many, many people have is that while the other person speaks, they're always thinking about what they want to say when it's their turn instead of focusing and listening. Remember, just about everybody has the capacity to remember stories. Everybody, that's what we say in network marketing, facts tell, stories sell. Stories are powerful. Stories are powerful. You must tell stories. And if you don't know how to do that, it's a skill. Trust me, my brain doesn't think about stories. My brain thinks about facts and analytical linear things. So I have to make myself tell stories. Somebody told me that video that I posted on the 7-day challenge at the very end, when I say, let me tell you a few stories, that's so powerful that, so I've had people message me and say, my ambassador or my customer heard that and they're going to join, or whatever. Okay. I learned that. I learned how to do that at Jewel training. Seriously, that is not something that came natural to me. And I still have to think about, okay, now if I want to tell a story, what am I going to say? Because my brain doesn't think like that. It's linear. It's not global. I don't think like that. So I have to make myself. It's a skill and you can learn it. Tell stories. You can make people feel like $1 million when you really listen to them and you remember their stories and you remind them. And then finally, tell a good story. So ask people to tell their story and then tell a good story. It's chapter 20. This is a guy that says this. Listen. John told me that story 8 years ago, and I still remember it vividly. In fact, I can't help but think about it every time I drive by that hotel. It was an important point of connection to John for me at that time. He included me in a private part of his life, sharing his heart, his dreams, and his personal history. It made me feel good, and it still does. That man remembers that story vividly, and it was 8 years ago that it was told to him. When you can tell a story to someone, you make a connection to their soul. Trust me, okay? It's a soul connection. John says, it's easy. Stories stick, principles fade. Stories stick, principles fade. If you want people to remember what you said, tell them a story. Don't just give them a litany of facts. Tell them a story and they'll remember it. And then as a writer, he had to learn to stop just giving a bunch of information in his books. He had to learn to tell stories in his books. Telling a good story made people want to buy his books and read them. Why is storytelling effective? Well, there's enthusiasm involved, animation, audience participation. They're engaged when you're telling a story. Spontaneity, memorization, humor, creativity. It's personal and heartwarming. Do you see why people remember stories? Because they make a soul connection. Facts don't make any soul connection. Okay? The person who tells the best stories becomes the one to whom others turn their attention. You better learn that one. The person that tells the best story becomes the one to whom others turn their attention. You have to practice it. Anybody can learn how to develop it. Now, tell it with the goal of making a connection. There's a particular individual that I know who has started doing live videos. And they don't do them all the time, but they do live videos. There's nobody on the team, by the way. Don't think, who's she talking about, me? No, I'm not talking about you. And the person struggles with inauthenticity. And I can just tell that there's a goal behind that story, that they're just trying to get people to pay attention to them. And it doesn't work. And there's not really any vulnerability there. They might be talking about some personal circumstances or some events that happened in the past, but there's no heart connection. There's no real vulnerability there. And it's very surfacey. And yes, phony baloney. Good, Susie. So people can pick that up in a heartbeat. You've got to tell your story with the goal of connecting. Okay, now I'm not saying that I'm something on a stick or anything, but the other day, about a week or two ago, I went live and I talked about my greatest fears. And it was not easy. And then I gave some advice on what to do if you're afraid. And you're always afraid of the future, like I am. And you worry too much, like I do. And I gave some advice. But first, I shared my vulnerabilities and what I was worrying about and what I was always afraid about. And I talked about one of my greatest fears is being alone when I'm old and having nobody. Or having nobody to help me. Having no one to help me. Or losing my mom. My dog dying. Those are some things I shared. And I mean, I was on the verge of tears. I had to hold it back. I don't want to ever lose my mom and I don't want to ever lose my dog, but I know that those two things are inevitable. And when I shared those things, no one would ever wonder, is she being honest? Is she being vulnerable? Is there any inauthenticity? Because I couldn't hold myself together barely, but I did. But I felt like that people are not going to understand what I was trying to say, and this was not going to help them if I didn't get real and tell them what I struggle with. Because I was going to give them advice at the end and tell them how to overcome those worries, those doubts, and those fears. You have to be real with people. And you have to have that goal as connecting. Put your heart into it. There's a reason why things like the Reader's Digest is such a huge success, because of the stories in it. What about guideposts? Have you ever heard of guideposts? There's tons of, that filled with stories. Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Nothing but story after story after story. Authors that know how to tell stories like Irma Bombeck. Who else? There's tons of people out there that write, like Tuesdays with Maury. That guy, what's his name? He writes book after book after book, and he tells incredible stories. Authors are the best storytellers ever. Anyway, those are some really great, like, published periodicals, like Reader's Digest and Guideposts and the Chicken Soup books, because they tell stories. They're so popular. Assume that other people want to hear it. Now, if you think that you're being tentative is going to be a successful story thing, it's not. You have to actually believe that other people want to hear what you have to say. You have to just have some confidence. If you have a timid delivery and you're nervous and you're scared, you just have to be bold. Get over yourself and just be bold. Be energetic, be engaging, and go for it, because that's how people are going to understand you and they're going to believe you. So engage people at the heart level and you're going to win them over. One last thing I'm going to say, one recent study revealed that those who use storytelling as a means of relating to others engender greater authenticity and self-esteem. It turns out that their self-expression makes others feel good, and they feel better about themselves in the process. So forget about being a professional storyteller and ask, how can I make my point come across through just stronger with just telling a story? And do it. Just do it. Tell a story instead of relaying facts. And remember, stories stick and principles fade. Next week, we're going to go through chapters 21 through 25, and we will finish the book. Incredible book, 25 Ways to Win with People. Now, I have a question for all of y'all that are on tonight, and it's going to bring you out of your little place that you're in. But what I want to do is, if you know somebody on this Zoom, when we get off the Zoom, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to stop recording here in a minute. But what I'm asking you to do is, if you know somebody or more than one person on this Zoom, I want you to talk about, and live tonight, and share how you've seen that person grow. Like, what are some of the growth areas or things that you've seen people grow that you know on this Zoom? Now, I know a lot of growth on a lot of y'all, but I'm going to let y'all tell on each other. Okay? So that's what I want you to do, and I can't wait to hear some of this. This is going to be good. It's going to be really good. All right, so meet us next week, Monday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Time. I can't wait to see you guys on, and we will finish it up. It's been such a great book study. Love y'all. Mwah.